does a space shuttle and faith have in common? Apart from taking big risks, there may seem to be no apparent connection on the surface. But today, I'm going to show you a very important connection, one that is vital for us in these last days. The connection is simple. It's called a criticality one component. In space shuttle terminology, this means that a component that has no backup and that the failure of which will cause the death of the crew. It was a criticality one component that caused the space shuttle Challenger to explode 73 seconds after its flight, killing all 7 crew members. In that particular case, the criticality one component was an O-ring seal in the right-hand rocket booster. Cold weather on the launch pad that night caused the whole launch pad to freeze over, and this weakened that O-ring seal. So during flight, the O-ring seal started to leak and hot gases came out of that rocket booster onto the fuel tank, exceeding 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit, and this burned a hole in the tank, and the rest is history. But we, as a people and as a church, we also have a mission. And our mission is to cooperate with God in winning the great controversy. And that this involves reflecting Christ's character to the world and teaching others how they can also have this same experience. The only way we are going to succeed in our mission is if our criticality one components are intact. What is a criticality one component, you may ask? I believe that it's faith. Not the faith that the devil has. Faith that believes in God and fears about the future. Not the kind of faith that believes that the sun's going to come up in the morning. Not that kind of faith. I'm talking about living faith. Now, what is living faith? Well, Ellen White has a very clear definition in the book Testimonies for the Church, Volume 3, page 251. And she says this: faith, living faith is what you need. Faith that works by love and purifies the soul. And another quote, the faith that we are required to have is not a do-nothing faith. Saving faith is that which works by love and purifies the soul. So this is not a only believe type faith that we have here. This kind of faith is motivated by love, and it works. Faith that works. You see, if you're not willing to put your money where your mouth is, then you don't really believe it. But what kind of love would actually motivate us into action like this? It's the love of God. In fact, 2 Corinthians 5 verse 14 tells us that the love of God constrains us. This true love breeds trust and faith. So if you are lacking the driving force in your spiritual life, consider spending time with God each day and focusing on the life of Christ, particularly the closing scenes of his life. That will grow your love. To put it another way, we are to live our life, our daily life, as if the promises of God are reality. So claim the promises and then go forward as if they have already been fulfilled in your life. In fact, the 10 Commandments are just that. When you accept Christ by faith, God's promise is that you will not worship any other gods. You will not take God's name in vain. You will keep the Sabbath, etc. Is this called working your way to heaven? No, it's called cooperation with God. Listen to what Sister White says here. Man can accomplish nothing without God. And God has arranged his plans so as to accomplish nothing in the restoration of the human race without cooperation of the human with the divine. The part that man is required to sustain is immeasurably small, yet in the plan of God, it is just what is needed to make the work a success. God's Amazing Grace, page 319. Did you catch that? Our part in this work of redemption is immeasurably small. How small is that? So small that you can't measure it. It's hard to get your mind around. But there's more. Gospel Workers, page 289. The work of the Spirit is immeasurably great, and it is from this source that power and efficiency come to the worker of God. So God's part is so big that it's immeasurable. Like the universe itself, we only have one word for it, and that's called infinity. But don't miss this. Our part, immeasurably small as though it may be, is essential for God's work to go ahead. It's like the straw that stopped the freight train. Why? Because God cannot work in our lives unless we give him permission. He will not force the will. So the question is how? How do we give God permission to work in our life? That is our Criticality 1 component. That is living faith. That is the power of the will. Listen to what Sister White says in Steps to Christ, page 47. What you need to understand is the true force of the will. This is the governing power in the nature of man, the power of decision or of choice. Everything depends on the right action of the will, the power of choice that God has given to men. It is theirs to exercise. You cannot change your heart. You cannot, of yourself, give to God its affections. But you can choose to serve him. You can give him your will. He will then work in you to will and to do according to his good pleasure. Thus, your whole nature will be brought under the control of the Spirit of Christ. Your affections will be centered upon him. Your thoughts will be in harmony with him. Wow, isn't that amazing? All we need to do is connect with the source of power. Now, how do we do that? Here's an illustration from everyday life that may help you. I want you to imagine a power station. Look at the picture here and look at the trees and the high voltage power lines compared to these chimneys. That's huge. And these power stations, they pump out thousands of kilowatts of energy every day. They're running all the time, 24/7, 365 days a year. They do not stop. There seems to be an endless supply of power. And of course, those electricity lines, they travel down through the countryside and they finally end up at your house. Then they make their way through the circuit board into the actual house and they finally make it to a light bulb. But we have a problem because a light bulb is not shining, despite the fact that all that power and infrastructure is there. The power station, the wires, the light bulb, it's all there. But why isn't the light bulb shining? Well, we have one problem. Between the power source and the recipient, there is a minute gap created by a tiny little switch. That switch is preventing that massive circuit from completing. Now, if we want light, what do we have to do? All we have to do is flick the switch. It's that simple. And it's the same with the spiritual life. In our scenario here, God, he is the power source. He is the power station. And God has many avenues to convey that power to us through the angels, through the Holy Spirit, through his word, through the spirit of prophecy, many avenues. God has this huge infrastructure set up there to get power to you. But there's only one thing preventing that power from being activated, and it's that switch. It's called your will. It's your power of choice that God has given you. It's called living faith. Where are you going to put your living faith? Faith is what bridges the gap. It is our immeasurably small part in the work of redemption. So do you feel disconnected from God? Reconnection is only a flick of a switch away. We have been holding up on God far too long. Let's make the plunge and totally commit our lives to God. Then you will activate all the resources of heaven on your behalf. It'll take effort, believe me. Letting go of your control of your life is not easy, but the rewards will be worth it. When we as a people take these simple principles on board and live them, then Christ will come to take us home and put an end to all the suffering that is in this world. That is what he's waiting for. And as soon as we do that, Christ will come home, but not before then. More on this next time. But till then, may the Lord richly bless you, and thanks for watching.